Is this thing on? Oh, yeah, seems like it is. All right, another stream. First stream, and well, I know it's definitely the first stream since January. That's a given, considering, I only stream once a month. But when exactly in January was it that I streamed? Don't remember exactly. Just ramble until people file on in, I suppose. January 9th was when I last streamed. Over a month. Wow. Time flies. Someone's here. Yeah, hello, hero of what? Hello, shy guy, master 44. Hello there. It's been a while. Yeah, well, since I last streamed, apparently, says I streamed January 9th last, which is when I last streamed. Special guest, Pink. She's sleeping. Maybe I should speak a little quieter to, out of courtesy for Pink, but seems like she's in a pretty deep sleep. She's comfy. I would pet her, but I don't want to disturb her sleep. She looks very peaceful right now. Hello, Big Jerry. Bunch of letters and numbers. Hello, how you doing? Let me sleep in peace, Human. Thought you were referencing the borders are for a second. I was like, what? What? I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Leo. I was in your Discord. Oh, yeah, I remember you now. Hello, Leo. Yeah. Yeah, it has been a while. I don't remember the last time I spoke to you. No offense. I don't have the best memory. Oh, now Pink's awake. Something jolted her awake. You okay? I don't know if you heard that, but she was yawning, and she meowed at the same time. It's the cutest thing. She makes a little sound. The little sound she makes. She does that. It's cute and funny at the same time. I don't know what I was supposedly reference. Oh, now she's awake. Say hi. You don't want to say hi? She doesn't even want to look at you. Well, okay. She's more fixated on my window. That's her favorite part of my room, my window. She loves to sit in front of it and just watch the birds fly by and listen to them chirp. She can stay in my room till like very, very late at night or very, very early morning, depending on how you want to look at it. Um, just staring at the window. She likes the window open too. Every time she comes into my room and the window is closed and she wants to look out of it, starts meowing at me to open it, like, open the window, please. It's funny. It is kind of chilly today, though. I have the window open and it's a lot more breezy than it has been uh, for the last, I don't know, week or so. I'm so glad the brutal cold seems to be over, though. The blistering cold a lot of the Northeast was experiencing like late last month and much of this month. Ugh, it's horrible. And the snow. We got all that snow at the end of last month, and a lot of it is still here because Again, it's been very, very fucking cold. So a lot of it has still yet to melt. So that's fun. And well, I mean, a lot of the snow that was in front of my house, we've cleared it already. Spent several days shoveling or breaking ice. One of my neighbors, though, has an ice pick, and that was helpful. And I used that to break a lot of the ice that accumulated in front of my house. Hello, Robert. How are you doing? And hello, Pink. She's cleaning herself now. Hey, now she looked at the camera. Now she's licking me. Well, now she stopped. She licked me like very briefly. One little lick, and that was it. Oh well. I remember Charlie. He used to lick me like he could lick me for like minutes on end. Did you hear about what happened in Bay Plaza? No, I have not. Where is Bay Plaza? Bay Plaza Mall takeover in the Bronx. Oh, that's why I don't live in the Bronx. Uh, fucking CB. Yes, I know. I'm using an ad blocker, and I don't give a shit that I'm using an ad blocker on your site. I fucking hate those pop-ups. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, or you're owned by one at least. You can handle some users reading your articles with ad blocker installed. Anyway, Bay Plaza Mall takeover in the Bronx ends with over a dozen teens in custody. Takeover at and around the Bay Plaza Mall in the Bronx on President's Day turned violent as it was sparking and is sparking added security at other area malls. Police said at least 18 people were taken into custody, most of them teenagers. So what were these kids just like causing trouble at the mall just for the hell of it? I think I heard of something like that happening in my area, but it wasn't a mall. It was like some little, not a little, it wasn't even a store. I think it was a restaurant actually. Bunch of teens came in and like trashed the place when it was still open too. It's not like they broke in at like the middle of the night or anything. But yeah, fuck that shit. Like I don't know what the motive was. I don't know if they were like doing it because it was like trendy on social media or some shit. But either way, regardless of the motive, yeah, don't fucking do that. Like, I don't know what else to really add besides that. I mean, you think that'd be simple common sense? Don't trash a store, trash a mall, or any business really for no just reason. But yeah, I didn't hear about this. Again, I don't live in the Bronx. I live in another borough. I assume you live in NYC as well, uh, Shy Guy. Reminds me of when teens took over Seaside Heights on Memorial Day weekend. I don't know if I'm right, but I think there is like some kind of like trend or something of like trashing establishments just for the hell of it because oh, hi Pink. Think she's going to my window still. Um, just for the hell of it, just for like the memes and the lols and all that. I mean, I guess this has always been a phenomenon of some sort, trashing establishments just because it'll be funny. It predates social media and all that, but I don't know. I've been hearing stories about this, of like this. I mean, a little bit more lately. And again, I don't know if it's like tied to like some kind of like trend or something. But if it is, just more proof that social media really fucking rots society. I say this while streaming on YouTube, but it is true. People are really captured by their smart devices and the social media apps they have on it and the following they may have on those apps, and they always want to like one up each other for the sake of clicks and views, even if that means inconveniencing others or harming others or anything of the sort. Doesn't matter so long as they get that bag, so long as they get their desired view count. This stream will be great. Yeah, maybe these streams are usually fun. I don't know. I don't know what will be so special about this particular stream, but yeah, hopefully it'll be great. Most of these kids aren't raised right. Blame the parents. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a parental failure to some extent, I suppose. I mean, there are instances of, people not people growing up not to be good people and they had perfectly fine upbringings, but I'd imagine if you are the type to like, go and trash a mall for like no fucking good reason whatsoever or do anything of the sort, there probably is some parental failure involved. Like the kid might know, oh, they might not even get like that harshly punished by their parents or anything, or won't see like significant consequences from their parents if they're gonna do something on that level. I found a video called 73 arrests, 887 calls, Memorial Day chaos shuts down Seaside Heights. Wow, 887 calls. I remember in my area a few months ago, I think what was it, November, December this happened. There was like some drag racing going around in my area, but that also involved the drag racers like kind of wreaking havoc and like vandalizing people's properties and shit, and it was just fucking crazy. And it was literally like my block specifically, this didn't happen in, thank God, but it was super, super close to where I am. And I think I've seen those drag racers before. I remember in the middle of the night, I was in the living room playing on my GameCube, and then all of a sudden I hear a car like fucking doing circles in, well, in my circle. I live in a cul-de-sac. Just hear the car screeching as it circles around in my cul-de-sac, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And well, the car left within like a minute, but for a little bit, for a brief moment, I was contemplating, should I wake someone up? Should I call the cops maybe? But no, they left. And I was like, I guess let it go. This was like 2023, 2024, somewhere around there. But again, it was wild that something like that happened so close to me. Oh, and one of my neighbors, well, not one of the neighbors in my circle, but just outside the circle, my block got robbed recently. But yeah, that's scary too. They have a ring camera, a ring doorbell camera, and it has footage of the robber. But it was like they, of course, had them. Uh, they concealed their face, so you don't get a good look of what they looked like. But and that and the footage was pretty grainy. But yeah. Well, I always make sure I always stay up like well past midnight, so I'm the one that makes sure that everything is locked at night. It was from social media pop-up parties. It happens at the Jersey Shore every year. Oh, what the event you're referencing? It's been a while since I've been to Jersey. I have some family that lives there. Not a whole lot, some cousins, but the specific cousins I'm referencing, they live deep into Jersey, like a few hours away from where I am. So it's been a long time since since I've been there. I also have some family that's in Long Island. Some family that lives pretty deep in Long Island as well. So it also takes like a hour and a half to get to them. They're on my father's side of the family. Well, that family, the Long Island family, I haven't seen them in person since 2022 when we held a surprise birthday party for one of my family members. Well, he's not family by blood. He's married to one of my aunts, but he's, he's been married to her since before I was born, so I consider him, like blood family. And I was really close to him as a kid. That uncle, really cool guy. But yeah, I haven't seen the family that's from Long Island since 2022 when we had that party. And yeah, maybe I'll go see them again someday. But who knows? I still keep in contact with a lot of my father's side of the family through phone, though. The cousins I live in Jersey, the only times when I see them is when they come here, since most of my mother's side of the family still lives here in New York. So they come to us. And that includes my little cousin, who's going to be 13 this year. Shit. I remember when I first started seeing, well, the first time I ever saw him was at a family gathering when he was only a few months old. And then when I started seeing him kind of regularly was after my grandmother died in 2020. He was 7 years old at the time. And now he's on the cusp of officially being a teenager. I was like, whoa. Thinking of that just makes me go like, whoa. I guess the closest I'll ever have to having like a proud father moment is getting that little cousin into the GameCube. I don't see him as much anymore, but usually when I do see him and he's here, he wants to play on my GameCube. The shore towns have tried to crack down on those annoying kids by closing the boardwalk at certain times. I've never been to the Jersey Shore. Have I? No, I don't think I have. When I think of Jersey Shore, the Jersey Shore, I think of that stupid the first thing that comes to my mind is that stupid reality show with what's her face? Oh hi Pink. Hello. Yes, Pink was in Jersey Shore. No, I forget her name, but a bunch of those other fucking bozos as well. Reality television, not my thing. Unless we're talking about a Gordon Ramsay show. The only reality TV shows I have any interest in are Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares, and that's really about it. But I suppose those shows are like the only exception, or a lot of people's exception when it comes to like hating on reality television. I'm from NYC. I'm not the type to get into trouble. I'm just a college dude with mental issues. Well, best of luck with any with whatever mental issues you have. Um, it's nice to see a fellow NYCer, New York Cityer, in the chat. It's always nice in general when whenever like someone comments under my videos or chats in these streams or whatever and says, "Oh, I'm from New York," or I actually do live in New York City." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I talk about New York City like it's some little bumfuck town in the middle of nowhere, and it's like such a novelty to to find out to run into other people who online who live here as well. But no, still it's cool. You know, despite the economic hardship and how unaffordable as fuck it is to live here, I do like living here. I love New York City, genuinely. Like, oh, Pink is just was on top of my dresser and she jumped down to my hamper. But no, I do love living here in New York City. What really like cemented that I guess I'm lucky, if you want to call it that, to have been born here was I'm going to reference that party again in 2022. My father came down, to pick me up and go to that party, and his girlfriend at the time was coming with him, and she had two kids. One was I think 15, and the other was 11. And as we're driving on the highway on the way to that party, we're passing by certain. Well, I don't want to say which specific landmarks. I don't want to like um get a little too deep into where specifically in NYC I live in, but I live by some pretty significant buildings and landmarks that are pretty iconic here in the city that have been in countless, like TV shows, movies, and shit. And I remember those two kids, they live in upstate, they live in Buffalo, and they've never been down here in the city before that. And they were like taking pictures and they're like, holy shit, it's this landmark, it's that landmark. And I'm like, I've lived here my whole life. I've passed by these specific landmarks so much that they just don't really mean anything to me. But it really puts into perspective, like, I guess, it is pretty special that I was born here and I've lived here my whole life to see, like, tourists freaking out over seeing shit that I have seen again, like, fucking a million times in my life. And I've said this before, and I've had people online ask me, like, "How the fuck can you live in New York City?" Not even just, like, bringing up, like, how expensive it is, uh, but, like, how can you, like, j how like, how all the people, all the buildings and shit. these are people who live in like maybe more rural areas asking me how the fuck like I can live here, and I'm like, just lived here my whole life. This is all I know. And I think people have like this notion that all of NYC is like Manhattan when it's really not. I don't live in Manhattan. Um, I where I live, I mean, it's a pretty relatively quiet neighborhood. It's really just mostly houses here. No tall buildings, well, not much. It's not all, tall buildings, neon signs, and all that. The worst things to happen in my town is usually water main breaks or package thefts. Ooh, package thefts. I've always feared that happening to me. I don't order stuff on eBay that much anymore, but whenever I do, um, there's always like this fear in the back of my mind, like someone can like snatch whatever I ordered when it reaches the mailbox. Speaking of eBay, I actually just bought something. Arrived today, like 2 hours ago. Courage the Cowardly Dog, the full series. Finally have this. Suck it, HBO Max. Ugh. Like they Discovery completely purged. Well, I don't know about completely. Maybe some Cartoon Network shit remains on the platform, but Discovery purged almost all Cartoon Network shows off of the platform. And Courage the Cowardly Dog was one of the few leftovers for a while. And then they finally took that off sometime last year. So obviously, I can't watch Courage the Cowardly Dog on HBO Max anymore, but now I actually own it. Hopefully, Netflix is a little better with that whenever the fuck the Netflix takeover, finalizes, if it does, which probably will. I'm not not to say like I'm cheering on the fact that, you know, one big corporation bought out another big corporation for the sake of, eliminating competition, but you know, you take what you can, try to seek out any optimism in a given situation, and hopefully Netflix is a little better when it comes to allowing cartoons on HBO Max, or if HBO Max will even still continue to exist. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets all folded into Netflix. But yeah, regardless, I'm still glad that I actually own this because now I don't have to be at the whim of a streaming service that you know takes off shows at a whim and movies. Yeah, check out that video. It's got some crazy moments. Maybe I will, but not now. I'm streaming. Never cared about that Jersey Shore show. Well, I never cared about it either. I had a cousin who's around my age. Well, she's just a year older than me. Um, Back when she was a kid, she liked a lot of reality TV, and that included Jersey Shore. And I've never seen like a full episode of Jersey Shore, but I remember one time I was over at her house when I was a kid, and she had that shit on, and I tried watching some of it with her. I think I was around 12 or 13 at the time, and I didn't say anything to her. I didn't want to be mean, but I was just like thinking in my mind, how the fuck can you watch this? How can you derive any enjoyment out of this? But whatever. Maybe she'd say the same about some shit that I watch. I seen your worst 2025 YouTubers list, and I never heard of those people except for Ross Creations. Yeah, well, I try not to go with super obvious people, at least not for all of the picks, because I think that would be boring. Not to say like I think you're insulting the video or anything. But I'm just saying like sometimes people comment under those videos going like, "Why didn't you have this insert incredibly obvious person in this list?" Such a wasted opportunity. And I sometimes I like going with the more obscure picks or people who aren't so super duper obvious, with those videos to keep it interesting. And plus, I don't like, having people who just make like shitty, boring content because that's a lot of people on this website. I like, going with people who actually like do really bad shit because I think that's a lot more interesting to talk about than just this person's content sucks. So do a lot of other people's content on this website. What's so special about that? You know? The short towns I've been to are Asbury Park, Point Pleasant Beach, Seaside Heights, Ocean City, and Wildwood. Yeah, the family I've mentioned don't live around there, so yeah, I've never been to Jersey Shore. I don't know what it's like around there. HBO Max might as well be the network for watching paint dry. I mean, I like a lot of the shit that's on there, mostly like the HBO originals. A lot of my favorite shows of all time are HBO shows. Sopranos, The Wire, 6 Feet Under, a bunch of other shows I love. True Detective, first season mostly. But with how Discovery has been with that platform, again, like axing shows or just removing shows, I mean, off the platform left and right, shrinking down the content, but but still increasing the price. It's just bullshit. And again, I hope Netflix will be better with this. Hopefully, maybe. Um, Maybe they'll restore a lot of the content that was purged off of the platform whenever that deal finalizes, whether it be, they keep the HBO Max app and they put a lot of the stuff that was taken off of it back on, or HBO Max again, it's consolidated into Netflix and a lot of the content that left HBO Max are put into Netflix. I think the latter is more likely to happen. HBO Max getting folded into Netflix. Speaking of Netflix, a few weeks ago, I finally finished Stranger Things. I rewatched the show again, saw the final season. When it comes to Stranger Things, it's really just the first season. I think that's the only like really good season. I think the show gets a little ridiculous when it comes to like the whole like Soviet plot line and all that. I won't say too much, in case anyone in the chat wants to watch the show and doesn't want to get spoiled. But you know, I did like the ending, the finale itself. It did play it a little too safe for my liking, but it was still like satisfying. A lot of Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers classics are coming to Tubi next month. I've used Tubi on a few occasions. Maybe I'll. Well, what Cartoon Network stuff is going on Tubi? I now have my two favorite Cartoon Network shows on DVD, Courage, and I have the Ed, and Eddie box set in one of my cabinets that's in my room. After I finished after I finish Courage, maybe I'll watch Ed, and Eddie as well. I just bought the box set for that last year. Around the time HBO Max took off Ed, and Eddie. Fucking bullshit. Again, I regardless of if Courage ever does return to HBO Max, it's still nice to actually own the episodes now. And the discs, they seem to be in pretty good condition. Come on, come out. I just wanted it to just slide up, but it doesn't want to cooperate. The discs seem to be in pretty good condition. Kind of wishing the box came with a pamphlet or something, but it doesn't, unfortunately. Oh well. Just the discs, but that's the most important part. The episodes themselves. I do kind of hope this comes with bonus features, but I'm not holding my breath. I do have a really old Courage the Cowardly Dog DVD. It was way back when they only had the first season on DVD, and they never released the full series on DVD. And I remember that came with fucking nothing besides just the episodes themselves, which, I mean, hey, that's what I'm paying for, right? The episodes. If it has bonus shit or not, that doesn't really matter that much, but still, it would be nice if it did. It doesn't say anything on the back about any extras it might come with. Anything is possible with a little courage. That's what McQuack is saying, I guess. Doesn't really sound like anything he'd say, though. Join all the awkwardly fun and creepy moments as we celebrate our favorite cowardly dog in this complete series collection. Take a trip to Nowhere, Kansas, which is home to Courage the Cowardly Dog himself, along with his loving and wrinkly owners, Muriel and Eustace. In this hilariously epic complete series, we find Courage facing adventure. Yeah, I don't think I need to read the whole synopsis. You know what Courage is about. I don't think this contains the Scooby Doo movie crossover movie though. I think this box set was made before that movie came out, which I hear very mixed things about that movie. I know Dilworth, the creator of Courage, wasn't involved in that, and that kind of like takes some points away. I saw some clips of that movie, and it doesn't really have the same, I guess, weird charm that the original series has, which I'm sure like Dilworth was a big contributor to because watch interviews with the guy. He's pretty eccentric, a bit of an oddball himself. So I'm sure a lot of that, signature courage weirdness came directly from him. But that was something I wanted for a while though, since Scooby is the other, very iconic cowardly dog. I wanted some kind of like crossover with, at the very least, Scooby with Courage, but obviously the movie also has the whole like Scooby the mystery gang, which is cool. Maybe I'll watch it someday. It's not on HBO Max. I don't think it was ever on HBO Max. I think there's a DVD of it, but maybe I'll buy it someday. Prince Andrew was arrested recently. Yeah, I know, but he was released pretty quickly, wasn't he? Like brought him in on questioning. Um, I hope maybe if anything else happens with him, if he's taken in again, I would hope maybe he spills the beans on some pretty important people, maybe including our sitting president and other people of the sort. But I don't know. I'm not holding my breath. It's like so fucking rare. You see rich and powerful people actually be held accountable for their horrific actions. And when they are usually held accountable, it's just like some wrist slapping. Oh, don't do it again. And then they proceed to like, continue to be horrible people. But did anyone see that fucking picture of Prince Andrew in the police car that came out yesterday where he looked like a goddamn zombie or like something? He was like in shell shock mode. He was like, "Ugh, I never thought I'd ever see the day where I'd face consequences for my actions." I mean, who knows? Maybe I know he wasn't like brought in with when it comes to like the child sex trafficking and child rape. If you read like the section of the Epstein files that pertain to him, it's like some very evil shit that I'd rather not repeat in this stream. But I've read some of the stuff that at least some of the stuff that included him, and he was like, ugh, I can't even comprehend how people can be that fucking heinous. But what he was officially brought in for was he was giving Epstein like sensitive info about the UK that he wasn't supposed to give any outsiders. Which I mean, I can understand that that's the thing they can prove, like absolutely. Like Capone was brought down for what, tax evasion, when we know he was doing a lot worse things than that. But that was the thing the feds could like prove he absolutely did, and then they just threw the book at him with the tax evasion charge. Just woke up from my nap, lol. Well, was it a good nap? I don't like taking naps all that much. I used to take naps nearly every day when I would come home from high school. But a lot of the times when I would take naps, I would just feel worse afterwards, which is actually a pretty common phenomenon because your brain goes into like deep sleep mode and you don't intend to sleep, the full 7, 8 hours or whatever. And you wake up while your brain is still in deep sleep and you're all groggy and shit. You end up feeling even worse than before your nap, or at least that's happened to me a lot. That's why usually if I do have a shitty sleep or if I'm tired throughout the day, I just kind of like toughen it out, I suppose. Wait until when I usually wait until my usual time to go to sleep, and then make up for the you know and then make up for the tiredness I was feeling throughout the day by sleeping at my normal time. Well, I didn't like napping after school usually, but I still did it anyway because I was just so goddamn tired whenever I'd come back because, I'm not a morning person at all. There was a really big list posted on Twitter by Tubi's account, Ed, and Eddie, Powerpuff Girls Original, Dexter's Lab, Billy and Mandy, and Foster's are among them. I used to have the Powerpuff Girls box set, the complete series, obviously the original series. Had that when I was a kid. It even included that fucking anniversary special that wasn't very good. Unfortunately, it didn't also include the movie. That would have been nice to have in that collection as well, but they decided not put the movie in there for some reason. But yeah, most of those discs are fucked now. Scratch to hell, they don't play, and I think a lot of them are missing too. So, oh well. That was a pretty nice box set too. A lot more care went into that than certainly the Ed, and Eddie one, and probably the Courage one. Even had a lot of bonus shit included, like bumpers that would air on Cartoon Network and stuff. That was cool too. Even included like fucking the pilot. Well, not the first episode. I mean, obviously it would include that, but like the pilot that the Powerpuff Girls were based on. Uh, Whoop Ass Girls, I think it was called. Um, yeah, Powerpuff Girls were originally not a cartoon for kids. I don't think that's not what it was originally conceived as. Cow and Chicken is also coming to the platform. Who the fuck is texting me? I keep getting the. Yeah, not now. Sorry. There is a really. I already read that. Cow and Chicken is also coming onto the platform, but I wonder if the band episode will be included. Yeah, I think I remember hearing about the Cow and Chicken band episode. Didn't that? I may be completely off the mark. I don't know, but didn't it involve like lesbians or some shit or some depiction of lesbians? Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but I think that's what that was at least a factor into that episode getting banned, something like that, which is a pretty silly reason to, if that was the only reason, if that even was the reason to ban an episode of a kids show. One thing you might not know about me is that my interests are pretty niche. Oh, what are your interests? How niche are they? The less spoken about the PPG reboot, the better. Yeah, I tried watching some episodes of that to like give it a fair shake, even though I knew going in I was going to hate it. But I was like, hey, maybe it would surprise me. Maybe everyone is saying about it is wrong. But no, I fucking hated it. Any show that depicts kindergartners twerking, yeah, no, will forever be on my shit list. And wasn't there some like creepy episodes with like one of the writers like self-inserting himself into an episode and like shipping himself with I think Blossom? Ugh. Didn't they also add a fourth Powerpuff Girl as well into that show? Not the first time they did that in the original show. The girls created a fourth Powerpuff Girl, and that went completely wrong. They did a re-release of the Powerpuff Girls box set, though instead of the discs being dual, they are individual discs. Oh, yeah, I remember. Now I remember. I had to flip over some of the DVDs if I wanted to watch the other episodes included. Maybe someday I'll buy that box set again. I don't know because I did not take care of the DVDs that I got as a kid at all. Same thing with my Full House DVDs. I have every season of that show on DVD as well, but a lot of those DVDs are just fucked. Was wondering when you'd stream this month. Well, you got your answer. I just felt like streaming today. I was like, yeah, today's a Friday. Not doing anything. Well, not like I do things with most of my days anyway. But, may as well put some time aside to stream today because I feel like it. You're welcome. Well, what? Yeah, Bliss. Oh, the fourth Powerpuff Girl. That's her name. Yeah. I don't know anything about that character. I don't know if it's a good character or not, and quite frankly, I don't care. Bunny will forever be the fourth Powerpuff Girl, the real fourth Powerpuff Girl in my eyes, no matter how much of a disaster she ended up being. Speaking of cartoons, my TV in the living room has its own like built-in channel, Samsung TV or whatever, and it has a whole bunch of different channels, including some Pluto channels. And so a lot of the times, every time you turn on the TV, it defaults to like the Samsung TV app channel thing. And sometimes the channels change to whatever the default channel changes for some reason. I don't know who's changing it because it's certainly not me. And now whenever I turn on the TV, for some reason it defaults to like the Fairly Odd Parents Pluto channel. Um, and a lot of the times it shows the newer episodes, the most recent ones before the cancellation, because they're episodes that include the dog, what's his name, Sparky, and the girl that Timmy has to share his godparents with. Uh, what's her name? Katie, something like that. I don't know. I tried watching a little bit of it since now that for whatever reason my living room TV defaults to that, and I'm like, yeah, I can see why the show got canned. Poof, I never minded that much actually. They wanted to give the Cosmo and Wanda a kid. I didn't really care that much. The dog was added well after I stopped watching the show and stopped watching cartoons in general for the most part. The same with the girl. So I barely know anything about those characters aside from the fact that I think they seem like pretty dumb ideas, especially the girl. Like it completely goes against like the established rules in the show. The Crimson Shin, yeah, the superhero. Oh, and the voice actor for one of the characters in Fairly Odd Parents passed away recently. Um, the one that voiced the dude with the really tall hat, Doug, Doug Dimmadome. Yeah, that was the name of that character. I know he passed away recently, a few months ago. I remember when I first found out the same voice actor for Doug Dimmadome also voiced Krauser in original RE4. I remember finding that out, and I was like, "Whoa, really?" Yeah, but for a while, I knew the dude had dementia. Unfortunately, the voice of Sparky came out as a trans woman in 2016. I had no idea about that. Cha-ching, Absolute Zero, Peaky, and Poco, Cheaper, and By the Dozen Films. Zoog, Disney, the characters, Diva Stars, Astroblast. I don't know anything. I don't know what you're listing. Guy Moon, the composer for the Fairly Odd Parents, and Danny Phantom recently passed away in a car crash. Oh, I think I heard about that too. I never watched Danny Phantom as a kid, and I still haven't seen it as an adult. I don't know, for some reason it just never captured my interest, but I see a lot of people now say it was Danny Phantom was definitely the best Butch Hartman show. You probably never heard of these things I listed most likely. Yeah, I haven't. What are they, like TV shows or some shit? Most of them, at least. What you listed. Yeah, and recently, Sheen from Jimmy Neutron, his voice actor, passed away as well. All these Nickelodeon deaths happening like so close to each other. It's weird. I should watch Jimmy Neutron again someday. It was a great show. Very funny. I remember that Sheen spinoff they did all those years ago. Planet Sheen. Wasn't very good. Well, I kind of liked it as a kid though. I remember watching that the night it premiered. I remember pretty clearly then when I watched it premiere because I remember being so fucking sick. I think it was I don't know if it actually was the night it premiered or was if it was a rerun, but I remember it being a Sunday night, and I remember I was not going to have school the next day because I was so goddamn sick. And that was my first experience watching Planet Sheen. But I remember it being the weekend it aired at least, and because it was still being branded as a brand new show and that just premiered. Oh yeah, Trump's tariffs got blocked by the Supreme Court. It's just a little got a little news pop up about that. Well, he's still going ahead with global tariffs because he doesn't give a shit about law, especially if it doesn't go his way. I heard he's been freaking out about that on Truth Social, but I still have yet to read what he had to say in response to that because I don't I'm really not in the mood to fucking read what Trump has to say about anything right now, quite frankly. I rarely am, but a lot of the times I just kind of force myself because, hey, here's our president. May as well know what the fuck is going on in our world. I remember watching the Rugrats All Grown Up pilot the night it premiered. I remember that spinoff. I think I saw some episodes of that, but I didn't really care for it as a kid, so I didn't really watch it much. Oh yeah, and someone posted in my server. recently. That Nick supposedly canceled. I was getting fucking confused with that other show. Let me look up the name. The Loud House. Yeah. That's surprising to me because I thought that was their biggest show after SpongeBob. If it really is canceled. I remember my first thought when I first heard that it got canceled. I was like, didn't that show already end? And then I was like, oh, wait, no, it's that other show with the similar name. Oh. But yeah, I mean, again, like, it's kind of like, just have to wonder what was going on or like why. Your biggest cash cow outside of SpongeBob, you're giving your shit canning, but not like I really care that much. It's been years since I watched Nickelodeon, the channel. I did rewatch Avatar: The Last Airbender recently though. Speaking of Nick, Yep. Hello Pink. Hi Pink. Yeah, I did watch Avatar again recently. The original, the cartoon, the anime, if you want to call it that. Technically not, but whatever. Um, I still think it's a really good show. I still spit on my younger self, my child self, for having no interest in it and writing it off as a boring show way back because I was much more into, shows like SpongeBob and shit. But yeah, I have not seen the live action remake. I don't know if I have any interest in watching that. I don't even know if it's good or not. Definitely don't have any interest in watching the Shyamalan movie, just called The Last Airbender. They took out the Avatar part, probably because it came out around the same time as the Avatar movie with all the blue people. Don't want to have that cause any confusion with that. The show was made by a creep and the fan base is really odd. What, the Loud House? I don't know anything about the fan base. I heard about the creator being a creep, but wasn't he fired? Or didn't he leave on his own volition? At his own volition, at least. Like, I don't think any either of those things factor in, especially the fan base thing. I mean, a lot of things have awful fan bases, and they still chug along. Game franchises, TV shows, and shit. He got fired. Oh, yeah. That show was going on for years after he got fired, right? Not like that really put a dent, or I don't know if it like I don't know if his deport, well, not departure, him being fired, like hadn't the show saw like a decrease in quality or anything. I have no idea, but that show was still going on for years, and at the very least, I'm pretty sure the ratings for that show were still really good for years after after he was gone, after he got fired. But yeah, Nickelodeon in general just has a really bad track record when it comes to keeping shows around, especially if they're not like an instant hit. If your new show is not like SpongeBob levels of success, doesn't reach SpongeBob levels of success, uh, whatever, just throw it in the bin. I wonder what the fuck are they gonna do with SpongeBob if the day ever comes that Tom Kenny die. Well, he's going to die. I mean, um, he will die someday, obviously. But if the day comes where he retires, or hell, maybe he does do the SpongeBob voice until he dies. What are they gonna do after that? Patrick's voice actor is getting up there in years as well, isn't he? In his 70s now. I would hope they would end SpongeBob if because I can't imagine anyone else doing the voice besides Tom Kenny, but I'd imagine Nickelodeon would replace him. Or here's the apocalyptic option: AI. Have AI fill the void. I would hope Nick wouldn't go that route. I feel so bad for the SpongeBob voice actors, especially Tom Kenny. Why have any of them complained? It's still crazy to me that Adventure Time was originally going to be a Nickelodeon show because, such a Cartoon Network coded show. Hi, Pink. She's looking at me. Now she's looking out the window. And now she's cleaning herself. Look. And now she's not anymore. Say hi to the camera. No, she's shy, I guess. I mean, she is pretty shy. Whenever the doorbell rings, she goes bolting. She really doesn't like strangers. I hear Cartoon Network is circling down the drain. It's like Cartoon Network is pretty much like just a block for the now it's pretty much the Adult Swim channel, isn't it? Cartoon Network's only on for a few hours a day now, I think. I just feel like they were voice acting for too long, especially with Nick constantly milking it. Well, if they still enjoy doing it, I mean, I see no reason to feel bad. I'm sure they're very happy with the money they've made throughout the years off of that show. I know everything shouldn't be about, the money, and I hate everything being controlled by profit motive, but I mean, if the voice actors are still fine with doing that show, who am I to complain? Tom Kenny SpongeBob voice sounds hoarse now, and he can't do the laugh as well. Well, I mean, yeah, he's in what his 60s now. I'm surprised he was able to do that voice for as long as he has. But yeah, I've seen some clips of the newer episodes, and SpongeBob sounds, like you said, noticeably more hoarse. I even played that new SpongeBob game, Titans of the Tide, I think it's called. That's one of the games I got for Christmas, and SpongeBob's voice sounds pretty hoarse there as well. Well, I mean, I'd imagine doing that laugh, especially for all of those years, really wears your voice down. I mean, I see how he does it. He like brushes his hand up and down his throat. But again, I can't imagine anyone else besides Tom Kenny voicing SpongeBob, and I just wonder if Nickelodeon has any plans for when either Tom Kenny retires or dies. Like for me, that would be the end of the show. For me, there's no SpongeBob without Tom Kenny, but I'd imagine Nickelodeon has different plans. Is that Patrick reboot? Not reboot. Spinoff still going? I know that exists. Don't some of the other characters have spinoffs, or is it just Patrick? Adult Swim now starts at 5 p.m., but they also have a block called Checkered Past where they air the classics. Yeah, at this point, it's pretty much the Adult Swim channel with a few hours of, and Cartoon Network is like just a few hours. It's just a block that lasts for a few hours, essentially. I never watched Adult Swim as a kid. I mean, I knew a lot of kids in my elementary school who watched Adult Swim, and that's how they watched shit like Family Guy and other shows that were on Adult Swim that might still be on. I don't know. Might still air on Adult Swim. I don't know. I was always way more of a Nick at Night person. Everybody Hates Chris, George Lopez, Malcolm in the Middle, shows like that. Uh, I was way more into. A lot of classic CN shows are PG rated now too. Well, I'd imagine Courage got hit with the PG rating, considering how some episodes are definitely, well, I wouldn't say inappropriate for kids, obviously, but a little, I guess, heavy. Not emotionally, like with the scary content. I don't know. I was never that scared of Courage as a kid. I mean, there were some select scenes that really scared me, like the big stinking city episode with the violin girl jump scare. I mean, that was I always covered my eyes when that scene would come when I was a kid. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff that people were so terrified by from Courage, like Kim Gramsey's or the "You're Not Perfect" fetus. Well, actually, that's supposed to be Eustace's bugle, I think. But other stuff like that, I don't remember ever being affected by as a kid. I'm very uncomfortable now. Let me change my position. And Justice for All by Metallica. It's funny, just the other night I was talking to a Discord friend about that album. I like the album. It's still my fourth favorite Metallica album. And uh but it's just I uh I fucking hate the production and mixing of And Justice for All, and that's why it's my least favorite my least favorite classic Metallica album. Maybe it would be my favorite if it sounded a lot better. It's not even just the bass. I mean that's a big reason as to why I hate the production on that album, the lack of bass, but it's also just I never liked how thin the album in general sounds. Every time I watch an old SpongeBob episode, especially the first one, I just get an overwhelming amount of nostalgia as if I watched it when it first came out. Even though I'm born in 2006, I was 5 in 2006. Um, yeah, I mean that was my main show on Nickelodeon, SpongeBob. That was the show I liked watching the most on Nick. And I liked Fairly Odd Parents and some other Nick shows, but aside from that, I was mostly a Cartoon Network kid. I think Cartoon Network has a much larger, much larger amount of shows that I still like and go back to. Like even Fairly Odd Parents, I liked it as a kid, but nowadays as an adult, I don't really care for it. Jendi Tartakovsky has a show on Adult Swim called Primal. I never heard of that show, but I know he's the creator for Dexter's Lab, or at least he was only there for the first few seasons. And well, speaking of the Loud House, the dude who created the Loud House took over Dexter's Lab, and that's when the show went to shit. Same with Powerpuff Girls. He did the later seasons, and those are widely regarded as when the original Powerpuff Girls went to shit. And I agree. Hi, Pink. She's behind my computer. Justice for Jason, yes. It's really unfortunate they took out the bass from that album. The only way I listen to the album now is through YouTube uploads that restore the bass, or at the very least, the uploaders record their own bass lines for the songs, and the songs sound more complete with the bass. They sound much better with bass. Bass in general is really underappreciated. Like listening to "And Justice for All" tracks without the bass, and then listening to them with the bass restored, it really does make a difference and put into perspective how important bass is. Yeah, that's one of the most bullshit things Metallica ever did, taking out the bass from that album. And again, like the production on that album in general is just so egregious to me. Like the songs themselves, fantastic for the most part. I even said this on Discord the other night. Might even be my favorite Metallica album had that album been mixed much better, but it wasn't. Sounds like well, maybe I wouldn't go so far as to say it sounds like shit, but I just really don't like how the album sounds, even like beyond the bass being taken out. I never liked how papery, I guess, the drums sounded, and just how thin in general the album sounds. But I mean, Metallica for some reason really likes badly mixing their albums. I mean, Death Magnetic, it's my favorite post and Justice Metallica album by a pretty significant margin, but even that album mixing is pretty bad. And then there's Saint Anger, an album I like more than most people, but yeah, it's kind of undeniable that the album doesn't sound the best. But when it comes to that album, I think it kind of feeds into the mood, so I never really cared that much. I remember the House of Discontent episode from Courage aired on my birthday. Oh, really? I never looked at the air dates of each episode. I mean, I know the show premiered in '99 and ended in, well, not, it got canceled actually in 2002. I do kind of wish that the show didn't get canceled and it at least got a few more seasons, but I mean, Remembrance of Courage is past and perfect or perfect send offs for the series. You know, I'm glad the show got if the show had I'm glad the show got canceled there as opposed to it just randomly ending on a random episode that doesn't really feel like a send off at all for the show. The Powerpuff Girls episode where they got sunburnt was really bad. Why'd you have to remind me of that episode? That episode is disgusting. Like those all those like all gross shots of their skin burnt and their skin like peeling and shit and shipping. I don't know if that was someone's weird fetish playing out in the episode or some shit, some writer's weird fetish, but it was just like so uncomfortable. And I don't know what the fuck was going through the minds of the writers for that episode. And that's later season Powerpuff Girls too, but after the show went bad, after Craig McCracken left. I think he left Powerpuff Girls to do Foster's. It's similar to SpongeBob, right? He left after the movie, I think. Like Hillenberg left after the SpongeBob movie because he wanted the movie to be where SpongeBob ended, the first movie. If SpongeBob ended after the first movie, I mean, it's still obviously a very fondly remembered cartoon now, but it would definitely be seen as, one of the finest cartoons ever made. Well, I mean, it is still seen as that, but the classic seasons at least. But you know, it would be seen as like a nearly flawless cartoon had it ended at the movie. I mean, obviously there are still some classic there were still some classic SpongeBob episodes that were pretty bad, but for the most part, the show had a great run up until the movie. Phenomenal run. I think this is the longest Pink has stayed with me during the live stream. I think usually by this point she's out of the room. She wanted to leave, but no, she really feels like sticking with me today. The head writer for Courage passed away last year, David Stephen Cohen. Yeah, I heard about that when it happened. It's unfortunate. I don't think he was around in the first season though. I think he came in the second season. Because I remember reading in the Courage subreddit, people were attributing the show getting less scary and more tame when he came on board. I never heard of a single song by Kiss, and honestly, I never found it appealing. Well, I don't know how you don't find the appeal in something you've never listened to, but in the case of Kiss, you're not missing anything. Keep it that way. Like, the thing is, Kiss, I don't think their music is like offensively awful or anything. It's just so fucking bland and like the most generic, like, I guess like party rock songs you could fucking think of. I wanna rock and roll all night, party every day. Yeah. But like they're I wouldn't say like well they're such an iconic band up there with the likes. Well, not in terms of quality at least, but up there with the likes in terms of you know how iconic they are with say Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or other legendary rock bands and artists you want to name, but they do no, their popularity aside, they do not fucking belong in conversations with bands and artists like those. Fuck no. And that's what I've always found offensive about Kiss. They were popular, obviously, in that same era. Their popularity is comparable to bands like those. I get that, but their music, on the other hand, not very comparable at all. No. Oh, I think Pink wants to leave now. She's clawing at my door. Yeah, she's gone now. She's free. Funny, just when I was talking about her staying much longer than I thought she would. But yeah, I mean, I just hate hearing Kiss fucking be associated with much better bands and much better artists that were actually unique and actually brought something interesting to the table. But whatever. The only thing Kiss brought to the table was their stupid fucking makeup, and that's really about it. Uh, I'm good with listening to my corny early 2000s pop music. And I'm fine listening to my 60s, 70s classic rock. I don't really listen to a lot of pop. Not at all. Maybe I should broaden my horizons a bit. Message retracted. Totally Spies also came back a few years ago. Completely forgot about that show. Wow. I remember when I was a little kid, that show, Awakening Feelings, I didn't even know existed, and I'll just leave it at that. I had no clue that show came back, though. I haven't even really thought about it at all. Hearing people talk about how bad PBG and Dexter's Laboratory has become when Chris Savino took over as the writer makes me realize if he ever becomes the head for a cartoon, it's going to be bad. Yeah, that dude's like the Grim Reaper for once good cartoons. Uh, Considering he fucking drove into the ground two classic beloved cartoon shows. I remember there was a toothbrush that played rock and roll all night as you brushed. Well, I would take that toothbrush and just fucking snap it in half. No, thank you. I remember you reminded me of like old commercials that would air in like the 2000s advertising these toothbrushes that would play music as you would obviously brush your teeth. And I remember thinking those were so cool when I was a kid, and I would always ask my mom to get one of those, and she'd be like, no, nah. She really didn't want to get one of those for me, and you know what, whatever. Now when I brush my teeth, I listen to music through my headphones sometimes, or listen to YouTube videos I was already listening to. But yeah, I remember those commercials would air quite a bit, advertising toothbrushes that would play music, and I just find it kind of a funny concept now. I'm sure though I don't know if those toothbrushes are still being made, but it's like even back then you already had shit like iPods. Why would you need a toothbrush to play music while you're brushing your teeth? It just doesn't really make sense when you think about it. Did you hear about Three Doors Down lead singer Brad Arnold's passing? I have heard about that, but I don't listen to Three Doors Down, so I just kind of heard about it and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate, and moved on. I can't even name a Three Doors Down song now that I think about it. I'm sure if you played some of their popular songs, I might recognize them, but no, I've never listened to them on my own accord, so I can't name a song by them. I remember seeing those Tooth Tunes ads. Oh, is that what they were called? Do they still make those toothbrushes? I mean, they're already kind of pointless back then, but they're even more pointless now. I was never into classic rock, but the Beatles seem cool. The Beatles are very cool. Classic rock in general is pretty cool. My favorite genre, or subgenre, it's technically. Well, I mean, classic rock is more like a branding than an actual genre. I have some friends in real life who listen to some of the same shit I do, but pretty much all my friends listen to, modern stuff, which I mean, obviously I'm not knocking them for that. I'm the outlier. Someone who primarily listens to, several decades old music. But, sometimes I like to, I have some friends who, really aren't into rock at all. A lot of the shit that I listen to, and sometimes when I'm with them, I like to bother them and play some songs I like. Some of my friends really, really don't like Bob Dylan. So sometimes I annoy them by playing some of his songs. They fucking hate his voice. Their loss. Like the Beatles is also a bubblegum pop-ish, one of my favorite genres. I mean, yeah, but the Beatles, they kind of ushered in modern pop. They were the first pop band, if you want to call them that. I mean, modern music owes everything. Well, maybe not literally everything, but they owe it owes a lot to the Beatles. Taylor Swift is so mid. Well, I agree with that. Everything I've ever heard from Taylor Swift, I wouldn't call offensively bad. Maybe aside from "Shake It Off," hate that song with a passion. But everything else I've ever heard by her is just eh. Like that new some of her new songs from her latest album that came out a few months ago, the Showgirl album, "My Life as a Showgirl" or whatever the fuck it's called, Showgirl Life, whatever. Uh, I've heard some songs from that album, mostly not, you know, on my own accord, aside from one song called "It's Romantic" or some shit because it has I mean, I said this in my Taylor Swift video from a few months ago. Um, the chords people were saying were borrowed from a song called "Where Is My Mind" by the band Pixies, and I wanted to listen to myself to hear how similar the song is, and yeah, it's very, very similar. I don't know how intentional that was, but yeah. But I've also heard, the singles on the radio and shit, and it's just like, I mean, it's nothing that I would like go out of my way to shut off, but at the same time, it's just like I don't really, this doesn't really elicit anything out of me. I don't think it's so, just so great. I definitely like don't really understand the huge, enormous appeal of Taylor Swift. I don't know what the fuck I'm missing out on, but I mean, other people have their own tastes, I suppose. I feel like fucking around with my light bulb. I got a LED Wi-Fi light bulb a month ago. For those of you who haven't seen the previous stream where I showed it off. What setting do I feel like? How about party? Or how about this light mode? This is one that I made myself. I'm back. Taylor Swift is overrated crap. Yeah, never cared for her, as I've already established. Man, I have some friends that listen to a lot of the pop music of today. Responding to this comment, I never really cared for the pop music of today, and I don't really get the appeal either. I mean, it's really just not for me, I guess. I mean, I've heard some stuff, usually not on my own accord. Like I have a friend who's really into the what's her name? Carpenter, Sabrina Carpenter. I have a friend, she's really into her music, and I don't know. I've heard some songs through her, and it's nothing that I'd like. Again, just like Taylor Swift, nothing I'd really go out of my way to shut off like that. I think is so goddamn awful, but at the same time, I just don't really care for the music. I've always been into '90s and 2000s rock. Yeah, I listen to a lot of '90s rock as well, but mostly '60s and '70s rock. I listen to classic hip hop. I don't listen to that much hip hop these days. I tried really getting into rap when I was in high school. No, I listened to the usual artists, uh, Biggie Smalls, Tupac, the essentials pretty much. Eminem, of course. Like starter pack for rap pretty much. I mean, I liked it. Also listened to NWA. I liked it. I still like listening to some hip hop sometimes. Not a it's not a genre I completely like disparage or throw to the bin or anything, but it's also just not a genre I find myself listening to that much. I just listened to pop from the late '90s, early 2000s, some '80s too. What artist specifically? I've heard Sabrina Carpenter. She appeals to trendy kids. I mean, I guess so. Uh, music is no doubt popular, but I just don't really. Again, I've heard some songs. I can't fucking name them. I don't certainly don't remember the names of them. I just have a friend who really likes her, and sometimes when I'm, with my friends and she's there, sometimes I hear that Sabrina Carpenter be played, and that's really how I've heard her music, and it's just whatever to me. I remember the Grammys was on a few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, uh, and I just happened to go down. My uncle and mom were watching it. They're really into that. I couldn't give a fuck less personally. I happened to come down when Sabrina Carpenter was performing, and I remember my mom was like, "Oh, that's Sabrina Carpenter. She's singing right now," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just came down to like get a glass of juice, and then I went back up to think playing my GameCube. But I like to listen to their genres too. I'm basically a huge music lover. I assume you meant other genres. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes try to like break out of my shell when it comes to music, but I don't know. I always default back to what I know and what I like. I've read studies that are like, your taste in music, your lifelong taste in music is formed when you're around the ages of, I think, 9 through 12. And that was when I was always, well, I still always listen to classic rock, but all throughout my adolescence, that was almost exclusively what I was listening to because my dad would like import his music library onto my computer. He even taught me how to use LimeWire to get my own music. And a lot of it was classic rock and metal, a lot of stuff I probably shouldn't have been listening to at that age, also, but whatever. He pretty much gave me my taste in music. I was listening to a lot of classic rock, and I was also listening to quite a bit of metal, though these days I like rock a lot more than metal. But yeah, that was definitely when my taste of music was cemented and formed, and people just like familiarity. Again, the classic rock is what I've been listening to since I was a little kid. It's familiar to me. It's what I'm used to, what I'm comfortable with. So I guess that's why, whenever I try to like listen to other genres, even if I enjoy other genres, like again, I've tried out some hip hop artists and that I've really enjoyed and still listen to on occasion, but it's always the same artist that I've listened to since childhood that I go back to. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. People just again like what's familiar to them. I was playing Linkin Park this morning. Still when it comes to Linkin Park, it's really just Hybrid Theory and Meteor I go back to the most. Uh, and I also love The Hunting Party, but it's just the first two I go back to the most. Their two biggest albums when they were a new metal act. I hear a lot of good things about Minutes to Midnight, even though it's like a big tonal shift from their first two, but people have really come around to that one, and maybe I'll listen to it someday. I haven't actually listened to the new Linkin Park album, the one with Emily Armstrong. Her potential Scientology ties really turned me off from the new material. Though when they did that performance where she was singing a lot of the classic songs, she did do a really really good job. I'll give her that with the old material at least. But yeah, I like Linkin Park. Not a band I listen to all the time or anything, but I still what I do like from Linkin Park is really, really good. Unfortunately, I don't really like the last album, One More Light, or the last one with Chester. I mean, ugh, never. I mean, I do feel kind of bad since that was the album that was released right before Chester took his own life. But when something's bad, something is bad, and unfortunately, that album, at least to me, is bad. The LED bulb makes the room a little darker, but other than that, it looks pretty cool. I might get one myself. Yeah, I really like having this, and I bought a few. I bought a 4 pack of LED light bulbs after after I went to my friend's apartment and he had one of those. One of these light bulbs. I actually had a lot of them, but I thought it was really cool that you could change the colors and shit and have it, change colors on its own. And I wanted to get at least one for my bedroom, and I got a few others too. And my mom put some of the bulbs and some of the lamps downstairs, and we like using that. It's convenient, you can control it from your phone. Don't have to go up and switch it off manually or on. I also really like using these bulbs when I play video games, change it to different colors to like fit the mood of the game. Love that. Helps me immerse myself in the game even more. Like I just finished my millionth playthrough of original Resident Evil 4, and I had the light set to a deep shade of red. I love R&B, indie, techno, EDM, trance, and surf rock, and a Japanese genre called Shibuya whatever. Um, nice. I don't listen to a lot of electronic stuff. A lot of underground rock from the 2000s is better than anything that's popular now. I mean, I don't really pay attention to what's on the charts now. Well, I kind of do. My uncle likes playing videos that compile like the top 50 songs on the Billboard charts now, and I watch those videos with him just to get like some kind of feel of what's popular now. And yeah, I don't really find myself enjoying a lot of those songs that are on the charts right now, but it's whatever. So I have a little bit of a finger on the pulse of what's popular now through that. The album The New Normal by Cog came out in 2005 and is better than anything mainstream today. I don't think I've ever heard of Cog. I have the same experience. LOL. My mom would listen to Destiny's Child and pretty much pop music in general. Guess I know where my taste came from. Yes, that's where it came from. Your adolescence, your most formative years. And that's when your taste of music is also shaped. I mean, it makes sense. It's your most impressionable and vulnerable and formative years. So, of course, by extension, the music that you hear a lot in your environment will oftentimes also rub off on you, and you'll have that, and because it's familiar to you, and so you keep listening to that music throughout your life because it gives you that sense of familiarity and comfort. Destiny's Child was Beyonce's group, right? Before she went solo. YouTube notification. It just was a little blip on my laptop, but I didn't get to read it. Zoran proves the haters wrong. Hell yeah. Uh, well, he's facing some hardship now with Hochul when it comes to taxing billionaires, and NYC has a pretty big budget deficit thanks to Eric Adams that Zoran is desperately trying to dig the city out of. And as a last resort, it's a painful last resort, considering my family owns this house. We're not renters. He's considering raising property taxes by next fiscal year 2027, if Hochul doesn't cave and tax the billionaires, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that approach, because this is like some attempt to like hold Hochul accountable and pressure her into caving to taxing billionaires more. But I mean, I don't really see how, when really out of everyone, you're holding the middle class hostage, not Hochul. But we'll see if that even fucking happens. A lot of city council isn't really. They're the ones that vote on tax increases, and a lot of them are saying they're not for this, and will probably vote against it if it really does come down to him raising property taxes next year. And I think more than likely how this is going to end is Zoran and Hulk will come to some kind of compromise. It's not going to be what Zoran wants, and it's probably not going to come down to him raising property taxes. Hopefully, um, they're probably going to come to some kind of compromise, and you know, Zoran will take what he can get because he probably won't get any better than whatever compromise they come to, and we'll see how that plays out. But regardless, right wing media, and really the media in general, is just spinning it like, Zoran is going to raise your taxes, definitely, when it was really just a last resort he was floating, and something he said that he doesn't actually want to do, but, well, maybe unfortunately have to do if it really comes down to it, because this city, again, is in a pretty big budget hole thanks to Eric Adams. But no, a lot of people don't want to mention that. They just want to paint Zoran as the villain. But yeah, I mean, increased property taxes. We can already like barely scrape by with this house. Because again, my family, they own this property. We're not renters, and we are by no means rich. Believe it or not, not every homeowner and property owner in NYC is a multimillionaire. Anyway, I don't even remember what message I left off. That whole tangent came from a YouTube notification from Kyle Kolinsky. I think here, Minutes to Midnight is great. Yeah, again, I hear a lot of good stuff about Minutes to Midnight. I know it's very different from their first two. I know, like, on average, it's not as heavy, but I can probably deal with that if the music is good. Thousand Suns has some good stuff on it, though, or two. Yeah, I've heard good things about that album, too. I enjoyed One More Light. I didn't. I really didn't like that album. Again, I know Chester's last effort with the band, but I just unfortunately really didn't like One More Light. My favorite electronic band is Pendulum. They released an album last year, the first since 2010. Wow. 2010. I remember that year. I was 9. I was in 3rd grade for much of that year. And I started 4th grade in 2010. I remember when Eric Adams was indicted in 2024. I watched the press conference and people were yelling at him. It was hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, I watched a few Eric Adams press conferences, mainly the ones where he would freak out at them. I remember late last year he had a meltdown during a press conference. I forget what he was melting down over exactly, but a reporter I think asked him like a pressing question and he just fucking freaked out. Glad he's gone. Holy shit. Horrible mayor. Or there was one, it wasn't a press conference, I think it was a rally when he was still running for re-election early last year. He was like comparing himself to Jesus being nailed to the cross. I was like, what the fuck? And he was like talking about black people who wouldn't vote for him. And he said, I don't, I don't know if I should say this word. It wasn't the N word hard R or anything like that. It was, all right, well, uh, he said, all these Negroes who wouldn't vote for me, God forgive them, or something like that. And then the crowd went fucking wild. And I was like, what the fuck? Again, I'm very glad that jackass is gone. Well, I was a little kid when my mom would listen to that stuff in her car, so that was way before I entered my adolescence. Well, I mean, it's all cumulative. It spans back even further than late adolescence. Like when I was a little kid, even before the age of 5, I was already listening to classic rock. My dad would play around me, and I would play on his computer. I liked going on his computer and going on Windows Media Player to look at the little visualizations that you could play while listening to music. And, a lot of the music I'd put on was classic rock because that's what a lot of my dad's computer was filled with, and metal. And then he would put those songs on my computer. Again, he also taught me how to use LimeWire. And, you know, he was the one that shaped my taste in music. And my mom's taste in music isn't so far behind. I mean, she's also really into classic rock as well. It's funny, my mom has a better finger on the pulse of music that's popular today than me because she likes listening to some of the pop music that's popular now. And that's why she likes the Grammys. She likes a lot of the music that's played there. And that's why when I came down when to get some juice and Sabrina Carpenter happened to be playing on stage when I came down when my mom was watching the Grammys, my mom was like, "Oh, that's Sabrina Carpenter." And I was like, "Okay, cool." She's a lot more into it than I was. Maybe that's embarrassing, my mom being more in tune with what's mainstream than me, but whatever. My dad is for these last few years has been really into rap music. I mean, he's always kind of liked rap, but it was always just like, a genre he kind of enjoyed every once in a while, but nothing he really listened to. on a regular basis, but now he's like really into rap, like super into rap. I mean, he still loves rock and metal, of course, but rap is also like a genre he's super into now. And if my dad was in this big rap phase back when I was a little kid, maybe it'd be maybe it'd be hip hop I'd be listening to almost exclusively instead of rock. Again, it's your most formative and vulnerable years, and years when you're the most impressionable, which is when your taste in music shapes or forms. Also, when I heard the new normal, I'm reminded of the new norm. Oh, the Twitter cartoon. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I made a video about that, but yeah, I kind of blocked that out of my memory. Fucking dollar store cartoon, All in the Family. That's a great show. All in the Family. The New Normal is an amazing album. First heard it in 2018. Never heard of it myself. I then heard their other albums just visiting and sharing space in 2024. Hmm. I could never watch the Grammys. No one I care about is ever there. Same, but even if artists I did like were there, I just don't fucking give a shit about any of these award shows. It's all like just a glorified pat on the back. I don't need the fucking validation of my artist winning. Best artist of this year, best album of this year, best single, whatever. I like what I like. I don't need the awards to fucking validate what I like or anything like that. To me, it's just like whatever. I did watch the only thing from the Grammys I did watch. I don't know how I completely forgot about this. Was the Ozzy Osbourne tribute. Post Malone sang "War Pigs" and a few other Sabbath songs. That was nice. I watched that because my mom told me to come down and see it with her, and I did enjoy it. That was like the only thing from the Grammys I gave a shit about personally. R.I.P. Ozzy. Ozzy felt like one of those people that was just gonna be fucking immortal. Like all of the abuse his body went through, all of the drugs, and yet he still managed to live to old age is just like totally bonkers. Like you would think he would have been one of those frontmen who would have died young in like his 20s or 30s decades ago, but no, he managed to defy all odds and make it into his mid 70s, I think. Forget how old exactly he was before he died. But Ozzy was in pretty bad shape his last few years, right? And he had Parkinson's, and his health was kind of failing him in several different ways, I think. The new norm is so shitty that it became forgotten, and that's what it deserves to be forgotten. I most certainly completely forgot about it until now. Cog is an Australian three-piece band with brothers Flynn Gower and Luke Gower. That's cool. The Grammys ultimately don't care about music unless it's popular. That's what the Grammys are, a popularity contest. That's another reason why I don't care about them. It's just like what album was the most popular of this year? What song was the most popular of this year? And it's just a boring popularity contest I have no interest in because I really don't care if the shit that I like is popular or not or validated in the form of winning a certain award. I mean, it's cool if when music I do like does win awards. That's a nice little bonus, but it's nothing that I really fixate on or really care about all that much. Ozzy could barely move on stage, hence the chair. Live. Shame we never took time. We never took time. He never took time to retire. I assume that's what you meant to write. Yeah, he died like what, just a week or two after his final performance. He didn't really get to enjoy retirement for that long. Yeah, I know. He had Parkinson's, and that's why he had to sit in the chair in his final show. But hey, you know what? It was still badass. Him sitting in what looked like a throne. I'd say, the way he went out was probably the best possible way he could have gone out with that big show. Another album I like is Sinner by Drowning Pool. I've heard of Drowning Pool, but I don't listen to them. Alright, anyway, 2 hours. Over 2 hours I've been streaming. I'm gonna end the stream now. Kind of abrupt, but not really, since I always end these at the 2 hour mark anyway. Alright, anyway, this stream was a lot of fun. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to everyone who was here before, who aren't here now. I appreciate everyone who, tunes in and watches these streams and interacts with me in the chat for however long they choose to stay. And some of you are crazy enough to stay for the entire time. I don't know how the fuck you could bear listening to me for 2 hours, but hey, your choice, and I am very thankful that you chose to do that. Anyway, yeah, next stream will be sometime next month in March, which is my birthday month. 25 soon. Yay. Anyway, bye.